Google I/O 2025 is happening. This is Google's annual developer conference. And at it, the company announced some jaw dropping new AI developments. Now, the star of the show was Gemini 2.5 Pro, which now tops global model benchmarks and sports a new deep think mode for more complex reasoning. It also now supports expressive native audio in 24 plus languages and can directly interact with software through its new experimental agent mode, which gives Gemini the ability to complete tasks on your behalf. On the creative front, Google introduced VO3, which is a breathtaking new video model that people are showing stunning demos of online. It also generates sound and dialogue alongside the video that it generates. And they also announced Imagen 4, its most precise image generator yet. Both of these are embedded into Flow, a new AI filmmaking suite that turns scripts into cinematic scenes. And musicians weren't left out either because Google also announced Lyria 2, which brings real time music generation into tools like YouTube Shorts. In Workspace, Gemini now writes, translates, schedules, and even records videos, with AI avatars able to replace on camera talent if you so choose. Docs got source grounded writing, and Gmail can now clean up your inbox with a single command. Search, meanwhile, underwent its biggest overhaul in years as AI mode is now rolling out in search to all US users. There are also new features like Search Live, which lets you point your camera at the world to get answers in real time, and a pretty nifty AI driven shopping feature that can now check out on your behalf, track price drops, or even help you virtually try on clothes. Now, as if that was not enough, Google also stepped into spatial computing with its new Android XR smart glasses developed with Warby Parker. And one demo that didn't get a ton of stage time but generated a fair amount of buzz after was Gemini Diffusion, an experimental research LLM that is 4 to 5 times faster than Google's public models and uses a novel diffusion technique to achieve these speeds. Now, Paul, this is a huge number of announcements. There are a ton more even outside of what I covered. Maybe first take us through which ones you're paying the most attention to here.
So I was this was Tuesday, I think. Yeah, Tuesday. So I was in London doing a talk that day, and by the way, thanks to Acquia and Movable Inc. There was two companies I was actually in London doing talks for. So one of them, I was gone while they were doing this, while this was all happening, while Sundar was doing the keynotes and demos and all this stuff. And so I was catching up that evening, trying to like wrap my head around everything that was going on. And the thing that kept coming back to me, Mike, with all this multimodal stuff, like the video and the deep think and all this stuff, is I tweeted this, was that it was the first time where I feel like Google is truly flexing their infrastructure muscles. So we've talked about on this show many times that the competitive advantage I saw Google having, outside of having Demis Hassabis and the DeepMind team, and they have Google Cloud, they have their own chips, the TPUs, they have data centers, they have all these things that OpenAI doesn't have. And this was the first time where you watched an event and thought they seemed like the big brother all of a sudden. Like it was that takeaway where you realize they have so much more than the other players here. And it's like their game to lose. And I don't think that's how it's always felt. Like it felt like they were playing catch up for a long time. And now when you look at their models, they're on par or better than anything else that's out there. The multimodality is incredible. When you start thinking about, what's going on with, like AlphaGo being that kind of technology being baked into what they're going to do in the future, it's really just impressive to watch. So that was my first takeaway. And then, like you, looking at the VO3 videos that people are sharing,
My
I have yet
God.
to play with it myself, but with the sound, and the sound's incredible. Like,
Yeah.
so there was one I saw this morning where it was a design lead at Google Labs tweeted, and we'll put the link if you want to see what I'm referring to here. The prompt he gave to VO was third-person view from behind a bee as it flies really fast around a backyard barbecue. And I just watched it, and you're like, how? Like, how is this possible? That AI does this. The sound's incredible. Like the people are muffled, and you actually hear like the buzzing of the bee over the people, but the people are still there, and I don't know. It was just unreal. So I retweeted that and I said, created with simple words, no code, no equipment, no expert production abilities. I think we have lost sight already of how insane and disruptive this technology is, and it just keeps getting better. So, and then like that was just one video. I mean, I've seen a bunch where you're just like, how? and and then I listened to interviews with Demis Hassabis, and you can tell he is actually mystified by how good it is, and the fact that if he's actually sitting back in awe of what's happening, um, that really tells me something about the technology. The other thing is the Gemini Live is huge. I'm waiting for the video component of this. So again, if you go back to last year, we were talking about Project Astra and this having the ability on your phone and eventually on your glasses to see and understand the world around you and interact with it. If you've ever come to any of my talks, I show Project Astra all the time. Well, we've had this in ChatGPT now for a few months where you could pop up a video and actually interact with the world through that. And so I got that this morning. I think it's been live for other people, maybe, and maybe on Android devices. I'm not sure. But as of this morning, when I went into my Gemini app on my phone, I now have the video live feed also in there. Um, so yeah, I think those are a couple of things. There's, like you said, there's so much to talk about on the tech side. We'll put links to all that in there. But I wanted to spend a moment talking about the bigger picture here and where all these innovations are actually leading to, because there's no need to connect the dots here for you. Like they tell you straight up, all of this is being built to build a universal AI assistant. It's literally the headline of the post from Demis Hassabis, that they're building a universal AI assistant. So I'm just going to read a couple excerpts here, Mike, because I think it helps frame for everybody how all this is related and what Google is trying to do here. So again, this is straight from the article from Demis. It says, over the last decade, we laid the foundations for modern AI era, from pioneering the transformer architecture on which all large language models are based, to developing agent systems that can learn and plan like AlphaGo and AlphaZero. We've applied these techniques to make breakthroughs in quantum computing, mathematics, life sciences, and algorithmic discovery, and we continue to double down on the breadth and depth of our fundamental research, working to invent the next big breakthroughs necessary for artificial general intelligence. This is why we're working to extend our best multimodal foundation model, Gemini 2.5 Pro, which I still have the preview version of. I think that's the version that's live still for people, to become, quote unquote, a world model that can make plans and imagine new experiences by understanding and simulating aspects of the world just as the brain does. So then I put a note in here, and I think I mentioned this a little later on in the show, but we'll make sure the link's in here. Alex Kantrowitz did an interview with Demis during Google I/O that Sergey Brin, the co-founder of Google, crashed. He wasn't supposed to be on the stage with them, but apparently last minute he decided he wanted to be on the stage too. And Demis actually in that, this is where he was showing surprise that somehow VO just seems to understand the physics of the world and be able to model those physics of the world. And without an actual like physics engine built into it and programmed into it. So he was saying, like, as a video game developer in his early days of his career, he would build these engines that would try to make the characters like function as though they would in the real world, within the physics, within gravity, things like that. And yet somehow they seem to be saying that it just watched millions and millions of videos and it somehow learned the underlying physics of the world, is what they're implying. Because I kept
Mm,
wondering, like, how much are they teaching it? Like, is there some engine behind it? He made it seem like there just isn't, which is shocking. And this is Jan LeCun. Like, he's big on there needs to be a world model before we can get to AGI. And, I think Demis agrees. So continue on real quick. Making Gemini a world model is a critical step in developing a new, more general and more useful kind of AI, a universal AI assistant. This is an AI that's intelligent, understands the context you are in, and that can plan and take action on your behalf across any device. The ultimate vision is to transform the Gemini app into a universal AI assistant that will perform everyday tasks for us, take care of our mundane admin, and surface delightful new recommendations, making us more productive and enriching our lives. This starts with the capabilities we first explored last year in our research project, Project Astra, prototype Project Astra, such as video understanding, screen sharing, and memory. Over the past year, we've been integrating capabilities like this into Gemini Live for people to experience every day. Through every step in this process, safety and responsibility are central to our work, We recently conducted a large research project exploring the ethical issues surrounding advanced AI assistants, and this work continues to inform our research development and deployment today. Now, that last couple excerpts there are going to become relevant in a moment when we talk about Johnny Ivey and OpenAI. The ethics of AI assistants he referenced, I went and revisited. We'll drop the link to this as well. Just a couple quick notes here. So they published this in April 2024. And so now what the interesting thing is, I always go back and look at the research, go back and look at what people said in the context of what we actually have today. And you can actually it's just interesting to connect it and like see the deeper meaning. So here's what they said in April 2024 before the rest of us had exposure to what they've now put into the world. Imagine a future where we interact regularly with a range of advanced AI agents or AI assistants, and where millions of assistants interact with each other on our behalf. These experiences and interactions may soon become part of our everyday reality. General purpose foundation models are paving the way for increasingly advanced AI assistants, capable of planning and performing a wide range of actions in line with a person's aims. They could add immense value to people's lives and to society, serve as creative partners, research analysts, educational tutors, life planners, and more. They could also bring about a new phase of human interaction with AI. This is why it's so important to think proactively about what this world could look like and to help steer responsible decision-making and beneficial outcomes ahead of the time. Two other quick notes. The Sergey Brin thing's hilarious. I would go watch the video. It's a great video. Actually, I watched it over breakfast when I was at the airport. It's like 30 minutes long. Alex does a great job with the interviews, but it was just funny to see Demis and Sergey together because Sergey has gotten heavily involved in the business now. Since I actually said at some point, he's like, if you're a computer scientist, like, how could you stay retired? Like, this is the greatest moment in human history to be a computer scientist. But like they were talking about AGI and Demis was kind of hedging and like, sometime after 2030, 5 to 10 years. And Sergey's like, yeah, I may have a little more aggressive than timelines than Demis. And then he goes, as he was explaining AGI and stuff, Sergey goes, and by the way, like we fully intend that Gemini will be the very first AGI. And he kind of like taps Demis on the shoulder, and you could see Demis almost like shaking his head, like, oh man, like this stuff you're not supposed to say out loud. He just like says it. And then the last note I had is just like, it's like a spin-off thought here. So when I was at the events this week, I had these different conversations. We were talking about like how fast things were moving, and I was trying to explain to people like, if at your company you're not embracing this stuff, you're not integrating Gen AI into what you do, you're not upskilling and reskilling your teams around it, you're very quickly going to have an employee base that is far ahead of your senior leaders. And so this actually came from a quote. And as I was thinking about this, I saw this quote. I think it was on like Thursday or something, or Wednesday. Aaron Levy from Box, who we've talked about before, he said, you used to have 2 weeks to come up with, say, a marketing strategy. Now a better one is spit out by Claude in 5 seconds. The next generation isn't even going to understand why we worked the way we did. And I may have mentioned this one before, but like, it's so important to think about this. You're going to have people who literally like walk in and like, let's say in your marketing and you say, okay, I want you to go do a competitive analysis, or I want you to build a marketing strategy, and then like come back to me. Here's how we do it. Here's an example of the last plan. And like, they're going to say to you, this could be a 21-year-old, that's going to take like 20 hours. I could just use ChatGPT and I could do this for you in like 5 minutes if you want. And I feel like we're going to have this conversation more and more in our companies. And as you look at all the stuff that Google announced, and you think about people who are racing ahead, like the AI forward professionals, who are going to go experiment with this stuff. They're going to figure out how to use it. And they're going to look at everything you do in your company as feeling obsolete all of a sudden, because there's just better ways to do it. So yeah, I mean, kudos to Google. It was, impressive. Very, very, very impressive.